Okay, welcome back. I have all of my pages gessoed, and so now I'm going to be doing the binding. And they've all been, your pages have been laying out, and so you've kind of taken them apart. So what you need to do is go back into those pages, Trouble the cat, go back to your pages and put them back in place. You know, try to remember we had the paper clips in there figuring out where everything was going to go. So you want to put them back into the folds and then go ahead and close your books back up and make sure that everything actually, trouble, and make sure that your book will still close up, okay? Once that's done and you've got everything rearranged, maybe put your paper clips back in so you know where they're going to fit. The next thing we're going to do is take our string, and I'm going to be doing some written instructions on this, so if you have to refer back to it, you'll have it. But remember that everyone's books are going to be a little bit different because we're all working with junk mail. So these are all just kind of close to be guesstimates. And if you think that that's, you got to make some adjustments, just go ahead and do that. But as a general rule of thumb, what I found works for most of these is you want to take a piece of string that's going to be 3 times the size of your journal. So that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. And that's where you're going to cut your string. Okay. And then we're going to thread our needle. One of the things about needle threading, when we're working with these twines, sometimes the ends want to come apart. And that gets really hard to thread your needle. So putting a piece of Scotch tape on that tip, that's a real good thing to do. The cat is really helpful, let me tell you. Oh my gosh. String and cats, imagine that. I have a super fat needle here, so that's nice and easy. But if yours is breaking apart and you can't get it into your needle, just take a little piece of Scotch tape, and that makes a nice flat surface, and then use that to thread through your needle hole. Okay, we're going to put that to the side so I can keep the cat away from it. Come here, Trouble. It's my beautiful cat. He's really more like a dog than a cat. He's probably one of the coolest guys I've ever had. He's a good kitty. Okay, now we need to poke holes. So, oh, for heaven's sake, I'll be right back. Remember when I told you in that first video that this was going to be unedited and it's going to be a bootleg? Well, these are all of the examples of that. So, I'm giving you exactly what I said I was going to give you. Okay, so I'm using it all. You're going to want to get a marker or a pencil or something and go into your journal. And like I said, you'll have a template for this. But because these are all different sizes, I can't give you an exact measurement. Just some general rules of thumb. Now, the other thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is you might have some smaller pieces tucked inside underneath one of these. So you do want to take a peek and make sure that you don't have a shorty that isn't going to catch. So first thing we want to do is find a midpoint. Find a midpoint on the page. For me, that's going to be right about here. And then you're going to want to come in from the bottom and give yourself enough space where that paper's not going to tear. And I'm saying about a 1/2 inch as a general rule. 1/2 inch from the top. And again, this one has shorter pages. So I'm going to come down a little bit more than a 1/2 inch here on the top because I want to make sure that I don't get too close to this short edge. Okay. And then a halfway point between your center and your top. and a halfway point between your center and your bottom. Can you see that? So somewhere about a half an inch from the bottom, one in the center, and then one in between each of those halves. All right? So do that for all of your pages. And again, paper clip that so that you can hang on to it and everything stays where it should. Some of those larger binder clips are really good for this if you've got enough reach. Depends on how big your pages are, but. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start poking holes. Now again, this is one of those things that can be, you know, kind of tricky because the paper's thick and I don't want you to be poking, you know, through the hole and into your hands. So when you do this, you have to make sure that your hands are not in the back of the folds because we don't need you stabbing yourself with your pointy things. So be careful of that. Now, go ahead and fold it over. Make sure your fold and that all of your pages are in the folds. And when you know that you're good to go, you're going to go ahead into the fold where your dots are, and you're going to make a piercing. Okay. Okay. You can see I did that. Okay. Then you're going to grab your needle. Now, with your needle, you want to leave a couple of inches on the top, but you're not going to tie this. This end's going to remain loose, okay? And then you're going to hold your journal as if this is the way your book is. So I'm looking at this as if it were going to be opened in this fashion. I'm looking at it just as if I was reading a book, okay? I'm going to start from the back side, and I'm going to go to hole number 2. And I'm going to go up through all of those layers till I come back out the side. Excuse me. And then you want to hold on to that piece. And again, if you're having trouble holding on to that, your paper clip is a great way to hold on to it so it doesn't get loose. So we came up through hole 2, and now we're going to go down through hole 3. And then we're going to go up through 4. And down through 5. Okay. Then we're going to go up through 4. And sometimes that gets tricky because the holes wiggle out of place. Can you see how that looks? And then we're going to go back through number 2. Back out. So now we've gone through, if you look from the inside, we have one straight line. Can you see that? And then on the outside, we have a straight line. We have 2 loose threads. And that's what we're going to use to tie these. Okay. There's your binding. Now I have on mine the second flap over here, and that had extra pieces in it. So I'm going to be doing the exact same thing on the other side. So So if you want to watch that again, I re-put my pages in, and I've checked to make sure that everything's lining up. You know, I currently have these two pieces here are basically the same size, so they tuck in pretty nicely. I could off-center that, though, if I wanted to create some more variability. Let's do that. Can you see how that's, I've got those off-centered, so tops and bottoms are showing from the other pieces. I'm going to put those back in my main book into the fold. So this is what I was talking about when we're putting holes in and we're marking our stuff. We have to make sure that we're getting the pieces attached. So I'm going to start by putting one in the center. And then I'm going to take a look here. I want to make sure when I do this that I'm going to catch all of the pages, but not get too close down to the bottom of this piece where it would tear. So I'm going to come up a little higher on this one. And up here when we look on this top piece, I could just, since I'm going to have another hole halfway, I could skip this one altogether. And just bind this one here on this outside piece, come down about 1/2 inch, or I can catch this one. It's kind of up to you. I think I'm going to skip it. I'm going to put it about 1/2 inch here, and then I'm going to come in on a halfway between my center and my top hole, which puts me right about there. And as I'm looking at this, you'll see that all of the pages are going to be caught, and I should still have a nice bind. All right. Go back to my awl. First, let me reclip these pages in. I think I said early on, paper clips are your friend for this project. It really does make things a lot easier to hang on to. Okay. When you're poking your holes, make sure that you're actually poking into the fold and not on the page. So you may even want to close it a little bit just to make sure that you're coming out where you think you are. I did a project like this with thicker paper a little while back, and I didn't even use a manual. I have this automatic drill thing called a Dremel, and I was kind of excited about it because I hadn't had an opportunity to use it, and so I was drilling holes through my papers. It was kind of fun. Okay, so that's done, and I've got to get another thread. And remember, your thread length was 3 times the width of the book, so 1, 2, 3-ish. Not an exact science. I'm not sure where these glasses came from. They're actually not mine. I just use reading glasses, and I have about 20 pair of them scattered throughout the house, and somehow these ended up on my table. So I don't know whose they are. Okay, so reorientating, so that I know where I was at the front of the book versus the back of the book. And then go ahead and rebind this final side, just like we did the first one. And again, follow the instructions on that written sheet, okay? And after we get that done, we'll come back on the next video.